What's up, everybody? It's Jeremy from Weldtec Designs, and today we are hanging out in a parking lot and we are going to talk vans. And we know that you guys love vans, so this is going to be a fun one. I'm going to try to make it very educational, teach you guys something about vans as well. I mean, hey, that's the point of hanging out with me, is you'll want to learn something, correct? All right, so today's topic is going to be lift kits. If you have a van, or maybe you've been thinking about getting into the van life and you're looking at the Ford Econoline platform, first of all, it's a full frame chassis. We love that. That is awesome because we know the Transits is a unibody and that's a glorified car. So another thing is about the Ford Econoline that we absolutely love is that twin I-beam front suspension. It is really nice because you can get a good amount of travel out of it for not a lot of money, and that is a huge plus. Now, of course, there's always a downside with every plus. Is going to be the steering, and because the I-beams are not equal length, that means your steering is not equal length, and you hear people talk about bump steer, and as you get more travel, the wheels tend to they kind of go in as they come up, and then they go out as they go down, and everything travels in a funky arc because it has that single pivot point on the I-beam. It's not like an independent front suspension. However, like we said, you get good amount of travel, don't have to spend a lot of money, except if you're this guy, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. The rear is going to be leaf springs. Of course, we love leaf springs because we can do all kinds of fun stuff with it. So let's talk about this. I'm going to bring it up from this customer's point of view. He was really interested in getting into the van life, starts looking at vans, and of course, he finds this van right here. He's really excited about it because, you know, it does look really cool. It's got, you know, the BF Goodwrench tires. This is a 285/70/17. It's got the cool, you know, XT wheels on it. You know, fender flares, front bumper. He actually put the pop top on it from Field Vans. But when you look at the van, you're like, hey, this is cool. It's already lifted. This looks awesome. I'm gonna be able to go wherever I wanna go in it. And then starts driving it, and then his heart begins to break because he absolutely hates the way that it drives. And I would love to say that every lift kit is built equally, but it is definitely not. And at Weldtec Designs, we have a very unique way of lifting the Ford vans, which is going to be modifying or bending the I-beams. We also like doing extended radius arms. So with this particular kit, this one is by Action Van. They are a company in Southern California as well. And they use drop-down brackets. So instead of actually modifying the I-beams, they drop all the pivot points down in order to keep your camber correct once you run a larger coil spring in there. Now, they're doing the Bilstein shocks, and yes, Bilstein has been around for a long time, and they make a really good product for the money. Let's emphasize that. It is a good shock for the money at like 100, 120 bucks. Like, yeah, it's a really good shock. And then on this, they just modify the radius arms in order to correct the caster. This kit is going to be very similar to an Ocotillo Cruiser kit from Weldtec Designs, where it's got modified radius arms, not a longer one. But it's giving you that clearance to run that 285, and that's key. Of course, you like that. This also has sway bar drop brackets, I don't even know, a Bilstein steering stabilizer as well. They dropped all the bump stops down. So it is, I would like to say that it's a less expensive way to lift your van, but it's really pretty equally priced if you were to really compare like pieces and parts and that kind of thing. So this customer brought us this van, doesn't like the way that it drives. He's going to have this kit taken off, and he's gonna go to like a Baja grocery getter front end. But again, like cool front bumper, winch, you can see that why the draw to it would definitely, you know, be a lot. Now in the back of this particular kit, it does just have a block and U-bolt as well as the Bilstein shocks in the rear to get the height out of it. And now to keep our kits less expensive, we do offer this. However, all of our kits are either going to come with a Fox shock or a King shock on there. The big benefits in those shocks is both shocks are totally rebuildable. They have an internal floating piston in the shock, which separates the gas from the oil, which is another big plus. You get less shock fade as the shock gets hotter. Also, some of the components that go into it obviously are a lot better with that aluminum body, and the King shocks, you know, bushings over spherical bearings. So a lot of little details when it comes to the shocks, and that's why you're gonna see an increase in the shock price, going up about $100 on a Fox and about $140 on a King shock. So other things to consider when you're building out your van. You know, Aluminous makes some killer products. You know, here's they're actually, instead of running a spare, he's got the double boxes. Something else to consider is that when you go to this size tire, when you go to a 285/70/17, that tire doesn't fit underneath the back of it. And if you're going to be putting a bigger tire on it, I definitely recommend you go this, or not going this option, actually putting a spare tire on the rear of your van. Now, we've kind of gone over a lot of the ways that this van is lifted. They also put some really cool fender flares on it. I definitely like the look of this. One thing that I don't like the look of now is once you do this, this tire looks really sucked in. Typically on something like this, and when this one's all done, I'll show it to you, I'd run like an 1.5 inch wheel spacer on there, get this tire out. You can see, like, when you look at this tire, it's much farther out. This one does have the 1.5 inch wheel spacers. But really just kind of want to emphasize showing you guys there's two different lift kits. If you are thinking about buying a van, you have questions about it, definitely you can use our YouTube as a resource guide. Otherwise, call one of our sales guys. We'll be happy to walk you through, you know, kind of the same thing. But now as we jump over to the Ford Econoline, you guys have probably seen this. This is my daily driver. I love this van. It is awesome. So on this one, I am running the King shocks on the front of it. This is also going to be the same size lift. We call this a 5-inch kit at Weldtec Designs. Same size tire, that 285/70/17 wrapped in that on that method wheel. When you look at the extended radius arms, how much longer that radius arm, it's 9 inches longer than stock. Now, I'm gonna break this down for all you smart people on the internet that think you're really smart but really don't know. So even, let's say, an individual, let's call him Harry, but with an L, okay? Says, oh, I don't know why you would run those bushings on the back of your radius arm, like, oh, that's so old school. So because the radius arm is longer, okay, the bushing through all 10 inches of travel moves 1/2 of an inch. So 10 inches of travel at the wheel. Back here, we're going math, guys, okay? At the pivot here, it only moves 1/2 inch. So what that means is you're probably never gonna wear out bushings. You're definitely not gonna wear out a uniball if that's what you have in there. It's going to absorb all of the energy really well versus a uniball, okay? So just because you put nice parts in it and say that it's better, doesn't mean that it always is. Here's the thing, on a short radius arm, if you were to have this pivot through 10 inches of travel, it would move a lot and probably eat up bushings, and that's why we don't do it. We run a longer arm, less caster change, as well as your wheel cycles through its travel as well, versus with a shorter arm, you're gonna have more caster change as your wheel cycles. Why is caster important? Caster is really important when you're driving down the highway. It's going to keep your vehicle going in a straight line and not wanting to follow the road. So all of these things play a big part in it. Now, I will tell you this, with the bent I-beams, you could say the one negative thing about that is it does shorten up your track width by 1/4 of an inch per side. However, if you go with a larger tire, you're getting that back as well. I personally, on my van, am also running an 1.5 inch wheel spacer on the front. And the reason being is I have this fiberglass fender on there to give me that big wide look that I like. And in order to match that front end. So it's obviously going to make it more stable having a 3-inch wider track width between the two wheel spacers. Something else to consider, there's a lot of things that go into building these, and that's why I would encourage you to reach out and touch base with us if you're thinking about building a van. I've been doing this a long time, and my goal is to have you only spend money once, do it right the first time, and not have to mess around with it. Let's talk about bumpers. There's so many different bumpers to choose from, and really, like, it comes down to, like, what is your style? Do you want a winch bumper? I'll make sure we get a B-roll of a winch bumper so that we can compare the two. So you can see, like, how far out this bumper sits. It's not crazy. You know, that winch is tucked in there. It's completely concealed. And I do like how they added the front license plate back up on there, because typically with our bumpers, I'm not running a front license plate. I just hate the way that it looks. You know, this is a grill guard bumper. Now, this is kind of ironic, and I'm just gonna throw this out there. You guys can comment down below. It's a grill guard bumper, but I'm like, is it really protecting the grill? Because right behind the grill is the radiator, and this is plastic. So I don't think I'm getting that front end protection that I necessarily want in this. Yes, it looks cool. It goes along the top of it. It protects the headlight, kinda. I don't know. I'm just random thoughts that go through my head as far as, like, you know, I'm like, I don't know, maybe this needs like another couple tubes in there to kind of really protect the front end. If you were to hit a large animal, I'm pretty sure it's going through that hole, because I fit in that hole. Anyways, I mean, heck, if I hit it in my van, I'm just taking out the front end, because I choose, you know, the pre-runner bumper on here, which is completely small, completely tucked up against this front grille, because of the minimalist that I want. Heck, we live in Southern California. We don't have a ton of livestock crossing the road. It does have the light bar behind the grill. And another really cool thing, it doesn't matter what Econoline you have, we also make a mount that it fits behind the grill as well. This light is awesome, completely concealed. You can't even see it. Now, don't mind the very, very dirty bumper. Changed out that grill to a carbon fiber grill. Also have the recovery hooks on the front of it if I do get stuck. You know, luckily I haven't. This van does have, I did go to a 4:10 gear ratio in this with a ARB locker, onboard air compressor sort of thing. So again, you can see larger tire, that wheel well fits really nice. I've done a true rock slider. This actually welds to the frame and acts as a nice step. And we did kind of talk a little bit about the rear of this. So in the rear, we're running the progressive leaf springs. Now here's what's nice. I don't care whose kit you have. If you have an Action Van kit, if you have a Weldtec kit, you have an old Camber kit, you even have a 4-wheel drive converted van. If you are running blocks in the rear of your van, I make a leaf spring for you. We can make, and it's also built out to the weight of your van. So if you're tired of the crappy ride that your OEM springs give you, let us get a set of progressive springs in the back of it, eliminate that block, and even put like a Fox shock in the back of it to really make it handle really nice. A lot of things that we can do. So if you have a Ford Econoline, basically the sums up is like, you need to give Weldtec Designs a call, because we make so many things for the Ford Econoline. Come to the back of this, same sort of thing. We have done our own bumper on the back of this. This is our pre-runner bumper. I, of course, did not want a spare tire on the back of this. I wanted to keep everything really small and sleek, going to my pre-runner days of just nice, tight little things. And I have my spare in the back of this. So this is a mount that we make. The spare tire straps into the back of this, ratchet straps it really nice into the back of the van, which is great, out of sight, out of mind, if you want that. And while we have it open, we also make the molly panels for your back door. So if you want to be able to hang gear up on them, We make them for both the driver and passenger side door. So random other things that we do for the Ford Econolines. I mean, guys, we make a ton of stuff, you know, for the vans, and I know that this is the best one. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. Let's get like 25 comments on this video pretty quick, and we'll give one of you guys a door hook. So what this is cool, I know everybody says I can use a bungee, it's cheaper. It comes around, hooks onto the fender, and there you go. Now your door is not swinging around, hitting you in the ass. And then it just goes all the way. Funny part is, look at this, guys. When I had my van painted, they taped this off and painted kind of around it. I mean, I guess that's what happens. And what's cool is all this stuff is made locally. Check this out. This is a pair of transit hubs. This is the beginning of a spindle. Just picked these up from the machine shop locally. But just like to kind of, you know, show you guys that we're making all this stuff here in California. And if it's not in California, it is in the US of A. Pretty much, you know, all of our components, a lot of stuff. Anyways, I think that I've covered kind of everything talking about the two kits. I do want to emphasize a couple other things. With this kit, you do get a large drop-down bracket. I need to show you a bracket that I have at the shop. The guy did get into a little bit accident, but like completely just, like everything is just trash. And if you're really going to be like using your vehicle off-road, I know a lot of people do, and I'm not saying you can't. This is definitely a stronger way to go with the modified I-beams versus the drop-down brackets. No need for a drop pitman arm on this. Both of these kits are also going to have steering stabilizers, which is great. All right, throwing down another big one. This is a big question that people always ask. Can I run my sway bar on my Ford Econoline? Yeah, you totally can if you want to. It's just my preference that I don't want a front sway bar, okay? And yes, usually I tell people like, hey, it may not be necessary depending on the weight of your van. I personally like the way that it rides without it. That's just my 10 cents. Take it or leave it, because with inflation, 10 cents ain't worth crap. So both kits, yes, you can run a sway bar, especially if it's an 08 and up, not a problem. But I know that that's another big question that we get. Can I run a sway bar? Can I not run a sway bar? Yes, you totally can with a Weldtec Designs kit. In fact, we do them all the time, especially on the RVs and bigger vehicles. Can you think of anything else that we got, MB? I feel like we covered pretty much darn near everything that we possibly could. All I can say is you guys are going to want to see the transformation that I do to this van. I'm going to be putting a Baja Grocery Getter kit on it. I'm going to widen up that rear track width and do some really cool things as far as and also progressive leaf springs in the rear, getting rid of all the Bilsteins, going to Foxes on it. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to ride amazing. That is the goal. Hey, I know that desert season is coming. I know that a lot of you guys keep asking me, please come out to the desert. I would love to. I'm going to do my best to do that. I have to tell you, my schedule between my kids' sports is insane. I'm gonna try to make it out there. I want you guys to be able to experience how this van drives. I want to blow your mind. I wanna have fun. I just don't get out there nearly as much as I would love to. These darn kids just keep me so busy. So it's not that I don't want to. I'm just saying that, throwing that out there. Yeah, that's all I got, guys. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I'm sure I missed some things. That's what the comment section is for. Not only ask me more questions, let's blow it up, say you need a door hook. I'm gonna give one of those things away as well. And other than that, guys, thanks for hanging out with me. My name is Jeremy. This is Weldtec Designs, and I hope you guys come back and see me again in the next video.